Sketch Voice English. Real English for real situations.
Hey, can I tell you something that completely changed my English? The secret to fluency isn't speaking. I know that sounds crazy, but stick with me for the next hour because this is going to transform how you learn English forever. I'm Young Hee. For 3 years, I studied English grammar every single day. I could explain past perfect continuous. I knew all the irregular verbs. I passed every grammar test. But when Americans spoke to me, I couldn't understand them. When I tried to respond, my mind went blank. I had all this knowledge but zero fluency. Then I discovered something that native speakers do naturally, but nobody teaches explicitly. And once I understood this one skill, my English exploded. Within 6 months, Americans stopped talking slowly to me. They included me in fast conversations. They treated me like I was fluent. And the crazy part? I wasn't studying more. I was studying differently. Today's video reveals the truth. Why speaking practice alone won't make you fluent. The one skill that creates automatic English faster than any other method. How native speakers actually process language in real time. Why listening is 40 to 50% of all communication but gets zero attention in most English courses. And finally, the exact framework I use to go from confused and frustrated to confident and fluent in 6 months. Here's the game changer. Every English learner thinks fluency means speaking perfectly. But fluency actually means understanding instantly. When you can listen and comprehend without translating in your head, speaking becomes automatic. A student I know spent 2 years on speaking practice with minimal progress. Then she focused on listening for 3 months. Her speaking improved more in those 3 months than in the previous 2 years. This is why listening is the secret to English fluency that nobody talks about. Your brain learns language through input, not output. Let's begin. Okay, so most people, when they think about learning English, they think I need to speak more. I need to practice speaking. I need to find conversation partners. I need to talk. And look, I get it. Speaking feels productive. When you speak and someone understands you, it feels amazing. It feels like progress. But here's what nobody tells you. Speaking is output. You can only output what's already in your brain. If you don't have enough input, if you haven't listened enough, you literally have nothing to output. It's like trying to withdraw money from an empty bank account. You can stand at the ATM all day clicking withdraw, but if there's nothing in the account, nothing comes out. This is why so many English learners hit a plateau. They keep practicing speaking, but they're not improving because they haven't filled their brain with enough English input. They're trying to output from an empty account. Think about how you learned your first language. Did you start by speaking? No. You spent the first year of your life just listening. Your parents talked to you constantly. You listened to thousands and thousands of hours of your native language before you ever said your first word. And when you finally did speak, it came out naturally because your brain had absorbed the patterns. But when we learn English as adults, we skip this step. We want to speak immediately. We think listening is passive. It's boring. It's not real practice. So we jump straight to speaking without building the foundation. And then we wonder why we can't express ourselves naturally. I made this exact mistake. For 3 years, I forced myself to speak in English every chance I got. I joined conversation clubs. I practiced with language exchange partners. I talked to myself in English. And yes, I improved a little bit. But I was still translating in my head. I was still searching for words. I was still making the same mistakes over and over. Then I met someone who changed everything. An American teacher who told me, "Younghee, your problem isn't speaking. Your problem is you don't understand English well enough yet. You need to stop practicing speaking and start practicing listening." I thought she was crazy, but I was desperate, so I tried it. For 3 months, I stopped all speaking practice, 0 conversation partners, 0 talking to myself. Instead, I listened to English for 3 to 4 hours every single day, podcasts while I walked, YouTube videos while I cooked, audiobooks before bed. I just listened, and I focused. I didn't just hear English in the background. I actively tried to understand every word, every sentence, every meaning, and something incredible happened. After about 6 weeks, I started noticing things. I could hear the rhythm of English. I could catch words I missed before. I could understand jokes. I could follow fast conversations. My brain was changing. Then after 3 months, I started speaking again, and I was shocked. Sentences came out smoother. I wasn't translating anymore. Words appeared in my mind automatically. I sounded more natural without even trying. My speaking improved dramatically, and I hadn't practiced speaking at all for 3 months. That's when I understood. Listening isn't passive. Listening is how your brain learns language. Everything else builds on listening. Let me explain why this works. And I promise this isn't boring science. This is the science that will change your English forever. Your brain learns language through something called pattern recognition. Patterns are repeated structures. Black, white, black, white, black, white. That's a pattern. You see it once, okay? You see it twice, interesting. You see it 10 times, your brain goes, "Oh, this is a pattern. I know what comes next." Language works exactly the same way. When you listen to English, your brain hears patterns. I like coffee. She likes coffee. They like coffee. Your brain notices, okay, the word like appears in all these sentences. There's a pattern. And after hearing it enough times, your brain doesn't have to think about the grammar rule. It just knows. He likes coffee. Not he like coffee. It sounds wrong automatically because your brain has absorbed the pattern. This is how native speakers know grammar without studying it. They've heard the correct patterns thousands of times. Their brain learned through repetition, not through rules. And you can do the same thing, but you need massive amounts of listening input. Here's what most English learners don't understand. You need to hear a word or a sentence pattern at least 50 to 100 times before it becomes automatic. At least. Some research says 500 times. Think about that. If you only practice speaking, you might use a pattern 5 times, 10 times, maybe 20 times. That's not enough repetition for your brain to make it automatic. But when you listen, you can hear that same pattern 50 times in one podcast episode, 100 times in one movie, 500 times in 1 week if you're listening actively every day. Listening gives you the massive repetition your brain needs to recognize patterns and make them automatic. This is also why listening improves your speaking, but speaking doesn't improve your listening. When you listen, you're training your brain to recognize and process English instantly. That recognition then allows you to produce English naturally. But when you only practice speaking, You're just repeating the limited patterns you already know. You're not learning new ones. Another thing about listening, it's how you learn pronunciation naturally. When you hear "how are you" said as "how-ru" instead of "how are you," your brain learns the natural connected speech. When you hear "I'm gonna" instead of "I am going to," your brain absorbs real English, not textbook English. This only happens through listening. You can't learn it from grammar books. And here's the most important part. Listening trains your brain to think in English. Right now, most English learners think in their native language and translate to English. That's slow. That's exhausting. That's why you freeze up in conversations. But when you listen to massive amounts of English, your brain starts processing English directly. You stop translating. You start understanding English as English. I remember the exact moment this happened to me. I was listening to a podcast, and the person said something funny. I laughed immediately. Then I realized, wait, I didn't translate that. I understood it directly in English. My brain had switched. And from that moment on, English became so much easier. This is what listening does. It rewires your brain to process English automatically. And once your brain can process English automatically, speaking becomes natural. You don't have to think about what to say. Your brain already knows because it's heard the patterns thousands of times. So the science is simple. Your brain learns through pattern recognition. Patterns require massive repetition. Listening provides that massive repetition. Speaking doesn't. That's why listening is the secret to fluency. Now, not all listening is the same. And this is where most English learners make another big mistake. They think listening means just hearing English in the background while they do other things. That's passive listening. That doesn't work. Let me explain the 3 types of listening. And if you understand these 3 types and use them correctly, your English will improve 3 times faster. I'm serious. The first type is passive listening. This is when you have English playing in the background, but you're not really paying attention. You're cooking dinner, cleaning your room, scrolling on your phone, and there's English playing somewhere. You can hear it, but you're not focused on it. Does passive listening help? A little bit. It gets your ear used to the sounds of English. It's better than nothing, but it's not enough to create fluency. Your brain needs focus to learn patterns. If you're not paying attention, your brain doesn't process the language deeply. It just becomes background noise. The second type is active listening. This is when you're focused completely on understanding. You're not doing anything else. You're just listening and trying to understand every word, every sentence, every meaning. This is where real learning happens. Active listening is hard. It's mentally exhausting. You can only do it for maybe 20 to 30 minutes at a time before your brain gets tired. But this 20 to 30 minutes is worth more than 3 hours of passive listening. Why? Because your brain is engaged. It's working. It's processing. It's learning patterns. When I started my 3-month listening focus, I did active listening for 30 minutes every morning. I would sit with my coffee, put on a podcast, and just focus completely. No phone, no distractions, just pure listening. And I could feel my brain working. After 30 minutes, I was mentally tired, but I could also feel myself improving day by day. The third type is interactive listening. This is when you're listening to real English in a real conversation. Someone is talking to you, and you're trying to understand them. This is the most challenging type because it's happening in real time. You can't pause. You can't rewind. You have to understand immediately. Interactive listening is the ultimate goal. This is what fluency looks like. You can listen and understand in real time without translating. But here's the thing. You can't start with interactive listening if your listening skills aren't strong yet. Interactive listening will just frustrate you. You'll miss too much. You'll feel lost. You'll want to give up. This is why you need to build up through passive and active listening first. Passive listening gets your ear used to English sounds. Active listening trains your brain to understand patterns. And then interactive listening becomes possible because your brain is already trained. Think of it like exercise. You don't start running marathons on day 1. You start with walking, then jogging, then running, then long distances. Your body needs to build up gradually. Your brain works the same way. Start with passive listening to build comfort. Move to active listening to build skill. Then use interactive listening to build fluency. And here's the beautiful part. Each type of listening supports the others. When you do active listening regularly, your passive listening becomes more effective because your brain knows what to listen for. When your passive and active listening are strong, your interactive listening becomes easier because your brain can process English faster. I used all 3 types deliberately. Passive listening during my commute and while doing chores. Active listening for 30 minutes every morning with coffee. Interactive listening whenever I had conversations with English speakers. And I made sure to do all 3 types every single day. The results were incredible. Within 6 weeks, I could understand podcasts I couldn't understand before. Within 3 months, I could follow normal speed conversations without getting lost. Within 6 months, I could watch movies without subtitles and understand 90%, all because I focused on listening. So remember, 3 types of listening. Passive gets you comfortable. Active builds your skills. Interactive creates fluency. Use all 3 every day. Okay, so now you know why listening matters, and the 3 types of listening. But how do you actually practice? What do you listen to? How do you know if it's working? Let me give you the exact framework I used. This framework has 4 questions. Ask yourself these 4 questions before, during, and after every listening session. These questions will transform passive listening into active learning. Question 1. Why am I listening right now? This seems obvious, but most people never ask it. And if you don't know why you're listening, your brain doesn't know what to focus on. Are you listening to understand the main idea? Then you can relax a little and just follow the story. Are you listening to catch specific vocabulary? Then you need to focus more intensely. Are you listening to improve your pronunciation? Then you need to pay attention to how words sound, not just what they mean. When you know why you're listening, your brain focuses on the right things. I made this mistake early on. I would listen to podcasts and get frustrated because I didn't understand every word. But I never asked myself, do I need to understand every word? Or do I just need to get the main idea? Once I started asking why am I listening, I could adjust my expectations. Sometimes I listened just for the overall meaning. That was comfortable. Sometimes I listened to catch every detail. That was challenging. Both types were useful, but for different reasons. Question 2. What am I learning right now? This question keeps you engaged. While you're listening, check in with yourself. What new words did I just hear? What grammar pattern did I notice? What pronunciation surprised me? This turns listening into active learning. You're not just consuming English, you're analyzing it. You're catching patterns. You're building awareness. And awareness is what makes learning stick. I started keeping a listening journal. After every active listening session, I would write down 3 things I learned. Maybe a new phrase. Maybe a grammar pattern I noticed. Maybe a pronunciation rule I figured out. This journal helped my brain process what I learned, and it showed me my progress over time. Question 3. Am I in the way? This is a strange question, but it's so important. What I mean is, are you blocking your own understanding with your own thoughts? Here's what happens. You're listening to English. You hear a sentence you don't understand, and immediately your brain goes, "Wait, what did that mean? I didn't get it." And while your brain is thinking about what you missed, the English continues. Now you're missing more. Your own confusion is in the way of your understanding. This happened to me constantly. I would miss one word and then spend the next 30 seconds trying to figure out that word. Meanwhile, I missed the next 10 sentences. I was in my own way. The solution is this. When you don't understand something, let it go. Don't stop. Don't rewind. Just keep listening. Your brain will pick up context from what comes next. And if it's truly important, it will be repeated later. Trust the process. Don't let your confusion block new input. This was hard for me to learn. I'm a perfectionist. I wanted to understand everything. But once I learned to let go and keep moving, my listening comprehension jumped dramatically. I stopped interrupting my own learning. Question 4. What am I missing? This question is for after you finish listening. When the podcast ends or the video stops, ask yourself, what did I miss? What parts confused me? What words kept appearing that I don't know? This question turns listening into homework. You identify the gaps in your knowledge. Then you can look those things up, learn them. And the next time you listen, those gaps are filled. I would listen to the same podcast episode 3 times. First time, just for enjoyment and overall understanding. Second time, actively taking notes on what confused me. Third time, checking if I understood better after learning the things I missed. This 3-listen method was powerful. The first listen was comfortable. The second listen was work. The third listen was confidence building because I could hear my improvement. So there's your framework. 4 questions. Why am I listening? What am I learning? Am I in the way? What am I missing? Use these questions every time you practice listening, and you will learn 3 times faster. Okay, so you're convinced. Listening is important. You understand the 3 types. You have the framework. Now the practical question. What do you actually listen to? Here's my recommendation based on what worked for me. You need 3 levels of content. Level 1. Easy content. This is content that's 80 to 90% comprehensible for you. You understand most of it easily without much effort. This builds confidence. This is your passive listening content. You can listen to this while cooking, cleaning, commuting. It's comfortable. It reinforces patterns you already know. For me, this was beginner podcasts, simple YouTube videos, children's stories. I know children's stories sound embarrassing, but they're perfect for building listening stamina. The language is clear. The stories are engaging. And you understand without stress. Level 2. Challenge content. This is content that's 50 to 70% comprehensible. You understand the main idea, but you miss details. You catch some words, but not all words. This is your active listening content. This is where growth happens. For me, this was normal podcasts for native speakers, TV shows, YouTube videos about interesting topics. I had to focus hard. I had to rewind sometimes, but I could feel myself stretching. This level is uncomfortable, but not overwhelming. Level 3, impossible content. This is content that's maybe 20 to 30% comprehensible. You barely understand anything. This seems crazy, but hear me out. This level trains your ear to the sounds and rhythm of fast native English. You're not trying to understand. You're just exposing your brain to authentic English. For me, this was fast-talking podcasts, comedy shows, movies with lots of slang. I didn't understand most of it, but I could hear the patterns. I could feel the rhythm. And slowly, over months, this impossible content became challenge content. Then challenge content became easy content. That's progress. The key is to use all 3 levels. Don't only listen to easy content. You won't grow. Don't only listen to impossible content. You'll get discouraged. Mix all 3. Easy content for confidence and volume. Challenge content for growth and learning. Impossible content for exposure and ear training. I recommend this schedule. 70% easy content, 20% challenge content, 10% impossible content. This keeps you comfortable while pushing you forward. Also, here's a tip. Listen to the same content multiple times. The first time you listen, it's challenge level. The second time, it's easier because you know what's coming. The third time, it's easy because you've learned the new patterns. This repetition is how patterns become automatic. I would listen to the same podcast episode every day for a week. Monday, it was hard. Wednesday, it was easier. Friday, I understood almost everything. By the end of the week, that episode had taught me more than 7 different episodes would have. Repetition is underrated in language learning. People think they need new content constantly. But your brain learns through repetition, not novelty. So pick content you enjoy and repeat it until it becomes easy. Another practical tip. Use content you're interested in. If you're bored, you won't focus. If you don't focus, you won't learn. So find English content about topics you actually care about. I love cooking. So I listen to cooking podcasts. I love psychology. So I listen to psychology videos. I love true crime. So I listen to true crime documentaries. All in English. I was learning English while learning about things I enjoyed. This made listening fun instead of a chore. Don't force yourself to listen to BBC News or academic lectures if they bore you. Find content that makes you excited to listen. That excitement will keep you consistent, and consistency is everything. Listening for 30 minutes every single day is better than listening for 3 hours once a week. Your brain needs regular daily input to build patterns. So make listening a daily habit, not an occasional activity. I made a rule. No day without English listening. Even if I was tired. Even if I was busy. Minimum 30 minutes of active listening plus 1 to 2 hours of passive listening. Every single day. No exceptions. At first, this felt hard. But after 2 weeks, it became automatic. After 2 months, it felt weird not to listen to English. After 6 months, I didn't even think about it. It was just part of my life. That's when you know listening has become a habit. When you do it without deciding to do it. When it's just what you do. Let me tell you about 5 people whose English transformed through listening. These are real students I've taught or met. Their stories prove that listening works for everyone, no matter your starting level. Story 1. Maria from Brazil. Maria studied English for 8 years. 8 years. She knew advanced grammar. She had a large vocabulary. But she couldn't understand movies. She couldn't follow normal conversations. Americans always had to repeat themselves when talking to her. Maria was so frustrated. She thought maybe she just wasn't good at English. Maybe her brain didn't work right for languages. She was ready to give up. Then she came to my workshop about listening. I told her, "Maria, your problem isn't intelligence. Your problem is you've been studying English, not listening to English. There's a difference." I gave her a challenge. Stop all grammar study for 3 months. Instead, listen to English podcasts for 2 hours every day. She thought I was crazy, but she trusted me. She picked podcasts about topics she loved: true crime, psychology, personal development, and she listened. Every single day. 2 hours minimum. The first month was hard. She understood maybe 40%. She felt discouraged. But I told her, trust the process. Your brain is working even when you can't feel it. Keep going. So she kept going. Month 2, something started changing. She noticed she was catching more words, understanding more context, following conversations better. She wasn't translating anymore. Her brain was processing English directly. Month 3, Maria watched a movie without subtitles. For the first time in her life, she understood almost everything. She called me crying. Young He, it worked. I can't believe it worked. After 8 years of struggling, 3 months of focused listening changed everything. Now, Maria watches TV shows for fun. She understands podcasts easily. When Americans talk to her, she understands the first time. No more asking people to repeat. No more feeling stupid. Listening transformed her English. Story 2. Chen from China. Chen was the opposite of Maria. Chen spoke English confidently. He had no fear. He would talk to anyone. But his English was full of mistakes, basic grammar errors, wrong pronunciation, unnatural sentences. People understood him, but they knew he wasn't fluent. Chen didn't think listening mattered. He thought speaking practice was everything. So he spoke constantly, but he kept making the same mistakes, over and over, because he was just repeating incorrect patterns he had learned. I told Chen, "You need to stop speaking for a while and start listening." He argued with me. He said, "But speaking is how you learn." I said, "No, speaking is how you practice what you already learned. But if you learned wrong patterns, speaking just reinforces those wrong patterns. You need to fill your brain with correct patterns first, through listening." Chen was skeptical, but he agreed to try for 1 month. He listened to news podcasts, business videos, educational content, all native English speakers, and he paid attention to how they spoke, what grammar they used, how they pronounced words, what expressions they chose. After 1 month, Chen started speaking again, and immediately people noticed a difference. His grammar was better. His pronunciation was clearer. His sentences sounded more natural. Why? Because his brain had absorbed correct patterns from listening. Now when he spoke, he was repeating correct patterns instead of incorrect ones. Chen continued listening actively for 6 more months. His English improved more in those 6 months than in the previous 3 years of speaking practice. Now he sounds almost native, and he tells everyone, "Listening is the secret. I wish I had known this years ago." Story 3. Priya from India. Priya had the opposite problem from both Maria and Chen. Priya could understand English when people spoke slowly, but normal speed? Forget it. Americans spoke too fast for her. She would catch the first few words, then get lost. This made conversations exhausting for Priya. She had to constantly ask people to slow down, to repeat, to clarify. People were nice about it, but Priya felt embarrassed. She felt like a burden. She started avoiding conversations because they were so stressful. I told Priya, you need to train your brain to process English at normal speed. And the only way to do that is to listen to normal speed English constantly. Not slow English. Normal speed. Even if you don't understand everything, your brain needs exposure to the real rhythm and pace of English. Priya was nervous. She said, "But if I don't understand, how does that help?" I explained, "Your brain is incredibly smart. It picks up patterns even when you're not consciously aware. Trust your brain. Give it massive input at normal speed, and it will adapt." So Priya started listening to podcasts at normal speed. Not slow learner podcasts. Real podcasts for native speakers. At first, she understood maybe 30%, but she kept listening. Every day. For 30 minutes of active, focused listening, plus passive listening throughout the day. Week by week, her comprehension improved. Week 1, 30%. Week 4, 45%. Week 8, 60%. Week 12, 75%. Her brain was adapting to normal speed English. The rhythm was becoming familiar. The patterns were becoming clear. After 3 months, Priya had a conversation with an American colleague. They spoke at normal speed. And for the first time, Priya didn't ask them to slow down. She understood everything. The colleague noticed. They said, "Priya, your English has improved so much. What did you do?" Priya smiled and said, "I just listened." Now Priya can follow normal speed conversations easily. She doesn't get lost. She doesn't feel stressed. She actually enjoys talking to people because she can understand them. Listening gave her the confidence she needed. Story 4. Ahmed from Egypt. Ahmed's problem was different. He could understand English well when reading. His reading comprehension was excellent. But listening? Terrible. He couldn't understand spoken English even though he could understand the same words in writing. This confused Ahmed. He thought, "I know these words. Why can't I understand them when people say them?" The problem was, Ahmed had learned English primarily through reading. He had never trained his listening ear. So his brain could recognize words visually but not audibly. I explained to Ahmed, reading and listening use different parts of your brain. You've trained your reading brain but not your listening brain. You need to build the connection between written English and spoken English. And the way to do that is through listening while reading. So Ahmed started a new practice. He would listen to audiobooks while reading the physical book. Same content, but he processed it both visually and audibly at the same time. This trained his brain to connect the written word to the spoken sound. He did this for 30 minutes every day. At first, it was challenging. His brain had to work hard to process both simultaneously. But gradually it became easier. His brain started making automatic connections. Oh, that's how that word sounds. Oh, that's how that sentence flows. After 2 months, Ahmed tried listening to a podcast without reading, and he was amazed. He could understand. The words he knew from reading, he could now recognize in listening. His brain had built the bridge between reading and listening. Ahmed continued this practice for 6 months. Now he can understand spoken English just as well as written English. He didn't learn new words. He didn't study new grammar. He just trained his brain to recognize what he already knew in a different format. Through listening. Story 5. Yuki from Japan. Yuki was advanced. She could speak English fluently. She could understand complex topics. But she had one problem: accents. She could understand American accents. But British accents? Australian accents? Indian accents? African accents? She got completely lost. This limited Yuki professionally. She worked for an international company. She needed to communicate with people from all over the world. But she could only understand Americans. This was embarrassing and frustrating. I told Yuki, "You've trained your ear on one accent. Now you need to expose your brain to multiple accents. Your brain is flexible. It can learn to understand any accent with enough exposure." So Yuki started a listening project. Every week she focused on a different accent. Week 1, British podcasts and TV shows. Week 2, Australian content. Week 3, Indian English. Week 4, African English. Week 5, Scottish English. Week 6, Irish English. She rotated through different accents continuously. At first, every new accent felt impossible. She understood maybe 20%. But she kept listening, and something fascinating happened. After 3 months of exposing her brain to multiple accents, she could understand all of them. Not just the accents she practiced, but any accent. Her brain had learned flexibility. Now Yuki can talk to anyone from anywhere. British colleagues, Australian clients, Indian partners, African vendors. She understands them all, and she tells people, the secret is exposure. Your brain is capable of understanding any accent. You just need to give it enough listening input. These 5 stories prove something important. Listening works for everyone. Whether you're a beginner like Maria, an overconfident speaker like Chen, someone who needs normal speed training like Priya, a reader who needs listening skills like Ahmed, or an advanced learner who needs accent flexibility like Yuki. Listening transforms your English. The common thread in all these stories? Consistent daily listening, focused active attention, trust in the process, and patience to let your brain do its work. That's the formula, and it works for everyone. Now let me tell you about the 7 biggest listening mistakes English learners make. I made most of these mistakes myself, and I see students making them constantly. If you avoid these mistakes, you'll learn twice as fast. Mistake 1. Listening without focus. This is the most common mistake. People think they're practicing listening because English is playing in the background. But they're scrolling on their phone, cooking dinner, texting friends. They're not actually focusing. Your brain needs focus to learn. Background, listening helps a little bit. But it's passive. Your brain isn't working hard enough to build new patterns. If you want real progress, you need focused, active listening. No distractions. Just you and the English. I made this mistake for years. I would play English podcasts while doing other things and think, I'm practicing. But I wasn't learning, because I wasn't focused. Once I started doing 30 minutes of pure focused listening every day, my progress accelerated dramatically. The solution? Set aside specific time for active listening. Treat it like an appointment. Sit down. Put away your phone. Close other tabs. Just listen. Give English your complete attention for 20 to 30 minutes. That focused time is worth more than hours of background listening. Mistake 2. only listening to one type of content. Many learners find one podcast or one YouTube channel they understand, and they only listen to that. They get comfortable. But comfortable doesn't create growth. Your brain needs variety, different speakers, different accents, different topics, different speeds, different styles. If you only listen to one source, your brain learns that one pattern. But English has thousands of patterns. You need exposure to variety. I made this mistake too. I found a podcast I loved and listened to nothing else for months. I could understand that podcast perfectly. But when I listened to other content, I struggled. My brain had only learned one style of English. The solution? Rotate your content. Listen to different podcasts every week. Watch different YouTube channels. Try different accents. Mix topics. Variety challenges your brain and forces it to adapt to different patterns. This makes your listening skills flexible and strong. Mistake 3. Trying to understand every single word. This is the perfectionist trap. You're listening to English. You hear a word you don't know. You stop. You rewind. You look it up. You listen again. Meanwhile, you've missed the next 2 minutes of content. Perfectionists do this constantly. They can't handle not understanding something. So they interrupt their own learning to figure out one word. But this breaks the flow, and English is about flow. You need to train your brain to understand meaning from context, not from individual words. I was the worst at this. I would rewind 10 times to catch one word. It was exhausting, and it slowed my progress dramatically, because I wasn't building the skill of understanding from context. I was building the habit of stopping and analyzing. The solution? Let it go. When you hear something you don't understand, just keep listening. Your brain will pick up meaning from what comes next. And if that word or phrase is important, it will appear again. Then you can look it up later. But don't interrupt the flow. Trust your brain to figure it out from context. Mistake 4. Choosing content that's too difficult. Some learners think, I should listen to the hardest content possible. That will make me improve faster. So they listen to academic lectures, complex news, fast native conversations, and they understand maybe 10%. This doesn't work. When content is too difficult, your brain can't find patterns. It's just noise. You get frustrated. You feel stupid. You want to give up. Learning doesn't happen when you're overwhelmed. Learning happens when you're challenged but not overwhelmed. I tried this approach. I forced myself to listen to advanced content I barely understood. I thought it would make me improve faster. It didn't. It just made me hate listening. I felt discouraged every day. My progress was minimal. The solution? Choose content at your level. You should understand 60 to 80% easily. Then you're challenged by the 20 to 40% you don't understand yet. That's the sweet spot. That's where learning happens. Don't try to sprint before you can walk. Mistake 5. Not listening to content you enjoy. Many learners think they have to listen to boring educational content. News, lectures, documentaries. They force themselves to listen to topics they don't care about, and they wonder why they can't stay consistent. If you're not interested, you won't focus. If you don't focus, you won't learn. It's that simple. You need to find content that genuinely interests you. Content you would want to listen to even in your native language. That interest keeps you engaged, and engagement creates learning. I forced myself to listen to news podcasts for months. I thought that's what serious learners do. But I hate news. It bores me. So I couldn't focus. I would zone out. My brain wasn't engaged. Once I switched to podcasts about psychology, true crime, and personal development, topics I actually love, everything changed. I looked forward to listening. I focused naturally. I learned faster. The solution? Find content about your interests. Do you like cooking? Listen to cooking shows in English. Do you like sports? Listen to sports podcasts. Do you like fashion, beauty, technology, gaming? There's English content about everything. Find what you love and listen to that. Learning should be enjoyable, not torture. Mistake 6. Not using a listening journal. Most learners listen to English and then move on with their day. They don't process what they learned. They don't track their progress. They don't identify patterns. So they don't know if they're actually improving. When you don't track progress, it feels like you're not improving. Even when you are. This kills motivation. You feel like you're stuck, like listening isn't working, so you give up. But the problem isn't that listening doesn't work. The problem is you can't see your progress. I did this for years. I listened constantly but never tracked anything. I felt like I wasn't improving. I got discouraged. I almost gave up. Then I started keeping a listening journal. Every day, I wrote down 3 things I learned from listening. New words, grammar patterns, pronunciation discoveries, anything. And suddenly, I could see my progress. The journal proved I was improving even when I couldn't feel it. The solution? Keep a simple listening journal. After each listening session, write down 3 things you learned or noticed. Just 3. This takes 2 minutes, but it processes your learning. It shows your progress. It keeps you motivated, and motivation keeps you consistent. Mistake 7. Giving up too soon. This is the biggest mistake. Learners try listening for 2 weeks. They don't see dramatic results, so they think it doesn't work. They go back to grammar study or speaking practice. They never give listening enough time to actually work. Here's the truth. Listening takes time. You won't be fluent in 2 weeks. You probably won't even notice much difference in 2 weeks. But if you listen consistently for 3 months, you will see results. If you listen for 6 months, the results will be undeniable. If you listen for a year, your English will be completely transformed. I almost made this mistake. After 2 weeks of focused listening, I felt like nothing was changing. I thought maybe listening wasn't for me. But I forced myself to continue for at least 3 months, and I'm so glad I did. Because at week 6, things started clicking. At month 3, I could see massive improvement. At month 6, I was a different English learner. The solution? Commit to at least 3 months, not 3 days, not 3 weeks, 3 months minimum. Mark it on your calendar. Tell yourself, I will listen actively every day for 90 days. Then I'll evaluate. Give listening enough time to work its magic. Trust the process. These are the 7 mistakes. Listening without focus. Only one type of content. Trying to understand every word. Choosing content too difficult. Not listening to content you enjoy. Not tracking progress. And giving up too soon. Avoid these mistakes and your listening skills will explode. Okay, so you understand why listening matters. You know the science. You know the 3 types of listening. You know the framework. You know the mistakes to avoid. Now I want to give you something practical. A 30-day listening challenge you can start today. This challenge is designed to build your listening habit and show you real results in just 1 month. By the end of 30 days, you will notice significant improvement in your listening comprehension. I promise. Here's how it works. Every day for 30 days, you will do 3 things: 30 minutes of active listening, 1 hour of passive listening, and 2 minutes of journaling. That's it. Simple but powerful. Let me break down each week so you know exactly what to do. Week 1, building the foundation. Days 1 through 7 are about establishing the habit and finding content you enjoy. This week is the hardest because you're building a new routine, but push through. It gets easier. Day 1. Find 3 podcasts or YouTube channels about topics you love. Spend today exploring. Sample different shows. Find content where you understand 60 to 80%. These will be your main listening sources for the month. Also today, listen to 30 minutes actively. Just sit and focus. No distractions. Get used to the feeling of focused listening. Day 2. Choose your easiest podcast from yesterday. Listen to 1 full episode while doing something else. Cooking, cleaning, walking. This is passive listening. Notice how much you understand when you're not fully focused. Then do 30 minutes of active listening with a different episode. Sit. Focus. Try to catch every word. Day 3. Start your listening journal. After your 30-minute active listening session today, write down 3 things you learned. Maybe new words. Maybe a grammar pattern you noticed. Maybe how a phrase was pronounced. Just 3 things. This takes 2 minutes, but it helps your brain process what you learned. Day 4, today, try listening to the same episode twice. Once in the morning as passive listening. Once in the evening as active listening. Notice how much easier the second listen is. This is the power of repetition. Your brain is learning the patterns. Day 5. Today, introduce a new accent. If you've been listening to American English, try British or Australian today. It will be harder. You'll understand less. That's normal. Your brain is stretching. This builds flexibility. Day 6. Today is your first check-in day. Listen to a podcast episode you tried on day 1 but didn't understand well. See if it's easier now. I bet it is. Even after just 5 days, your brain has adapted. If it's still hard, that's okay. Keep going. Day 7. Rest day. Today, only do passive listening. No active session. Give your brain a break, but keep English in your environment. This week you built the foundation. You found content you enjoy. You established the routine. You started your journal. Well done. Week 2. Building focus and intensity. Days 8 through 14 are about deepening your focus and increasing your active listening quality. This week, you'll notice your brain can focus longer and deeper. Day 8, today. Increase your active listening to 35 minutes. Just 5 more minutes. Push yourself slightly. Notice if your brain gets tired. That's your focus muscle building strength. Day 9. Today, try listening without any visual support. No subtitles. No transcript. Just pure audio. This forces your ears to work harder. It's challenging, but it builds strong listening skills. Day 10. Today, choose a challenging episode. Something where you understand only 50 to 60%. Listen actively. Don't worry if you miss a lot. Your brain is absorbing patterns even when you can't consciously understand. Trust the process. Day 11, today. Focus on pronunciation. While you listen, pay attention to how words sound. How do native speakers connect words? What sounds disappear? What sounds change? Write these observations in your journal. Day 12. Today, practice the 4 questions. Before you listen, ask, why am I listening? During, ask, what am I learning and am I in the way? After, ask, what am I missing? These questions activate your brain. Day 13. Today, listen to 3 different speakers on the same topic. Notice how each person expresses similar ideas differently. This teaches you that there are many ways to say the same thing in English. Day 14. Check-in Day 2. Listen to an episode that was impossible on Day 1. I bet you understand more now. Maybe 20% more. Maybe 40% more. Write down your improvement. Celebrate it. This is proof the challenge is working. Week 3, Building Variety and Challenge. Days 15 through 21 are about expanding the types of English you can understand. You'll add variety to stretch your brain in new directions. Day 15. Today, try a different format. If you've been listening to podcasts, try a YouTube video. If you've been watching videos, try an audiobook. Different formats teach different skills. Day 16. Today, listen to a conversation, not a monologue. Find interview podcasts or dialogue-heavy shows. Notice how conversation flows differently than one person speaking. This prepares you for real interactions. Day 17. Today, increase active listening to 40 minutes. You've built enough stamina now. Notice how much easier it feels compared to week 1. Day 18. Today, choose content slightly faster than normal. Increase the playback speed to 1.1 or 1.2. This trains your brain to process English faster. Makes normal speed feel easy later. Day 19. Today, focus on idioms and expressions. While listening, catch phrases that aren't literal. Write them in your journal. Look up their meanings. This builds natural expression knowledge. Day 20. Today, try content from a completely different English-speaking country. If you've been listening to American English, try South African or New Zealand today. Exposure to different accents makes your listening flexible. Day 21. Check-in Day 3. Listen to 3 episodes. One from week 1 that was hard. One from week 2 that was challenging. One from this week that was impossible. Notice your comprehension on all 3. You'll see clear improvement. This is the moment most people realize, this is really working. Week 4, Building Automaticity and Confidence. Days 22 through 30 are about making listening feel natural and automatic. This week, you transition from conscious effort to unconscious habit. Day 22, today, add more passive listening. 2 hours instead of 1. Fill your day with English. While commuting, while exercising, while cooking, while cleaning. Let English become background music to your life. Day 23, today, try listening to something fun. Comedy, entertainment, gossip. Not educational, just enjoyable. Laughter means your brain is processing English naturally without stress. Day 24, today, have a conversation with someone in English. Real, interactive listening. Notice how much easier it feels compared to day 1. Your brain processes faster now. You don't freeze up as much. Day 25, today, listen to the same content you listened to on day 1. The exact same episode. Compare your comprehension. You'll be shocked. What felt impossible 25 days ago feels easy now. This is transformation. Day 26, today, experiment with different active listening techniques. Try shadowing where you repeat what you hear immediately. Try summarizing where you explain what you heard in your own words. Find what works for you. Day 27, today, listen without any plan. Just enjoy English. No goals, no pressure. Just consume English media because you want to. This is what fluent people do. You're becoming fluent. Day 28, today, review your listening journal from the entire month. Read through all your entries. See all the patterns you noticed, all the words you learned, all the progress you made. This is powerful evidence. Day 29. Today, listen to something that was impossible on day 1. Something you couldn't understand at all. See how much you understand now. Most people understand 50 to 70% more. That's dramatic improvement in just 1 month. Day 30, Celebration Day. Today, assess your overall improvement. Listen to 3 difficulty levels: easy, medium, and hard. Notice how all 3 feel easier than they did on day 1. Write in your journal about your transformation. Commit to continuing. The 30 days built the habit. Now make it permanent. This 30-day challenge works because it builds gradually. It mixes passive and active listening. It includes variety. It tracks progress. And it's sustainable. You're not trying to listen for 5 hours a day. Just 30 minutes actively, plus 1 hour passively. Anyone can do that. After 30 days, most people see 30 to 50% improvement in listening comprehension. Some people see even more, but everyone sees some improvement, and that improvement motivates you to continue. I've had dozens of students complete this challenge. Every single one improved. Every single one felt more confident. Every single one continued listening after the 30 days ended. Because once you see results, you're hooked, you believe, and belief creates consistency, and consistency creates fluency. So here's my challenge to you. Start today, right now. Commit to 30 days. Mark it on your calendar. Tell a friend so you're accountable. And just do it. 1 month. That's all I'm asking. Give listening 30 focused days. And I promise your English will transform. Let me tell you what happened after I focused on listening for 6 months. First, my speaking improved dramatically without practicing speaking. This sounds impossible, but it happened. When I started speaking again after 3 months of pure listening, sentences came out smoother. I wasn't searching for words. I wasn't translating. The English just flowed naturally. My speaking improved more from listening than from years of speaking practice. Second, my vocabulary exploded. I didn't study vocabulary. I didn't use flashcards. But through listening, I heard words in context hundreds of times. My brain learned them automatically, and because I learned them through listening, I knew how to pronounce them correctly. I knew how to use them naturally. This never happened when I studied vocabulary lists. Third, my grammar became intuitive. I stopped thinking about grammar rules. I just knew what sounded right. Someone would say something grammatically wrong, and I would immediately notice. Not because I knew the rule, but because it sounded wrong. My brain had absorbed the patterns. This is how native speakers know grammar, and now I had it too. Fourth, I could finally watch movies and TV shows without subtitles. This was huge for me. For years, I needed subtitles. I couldn't follow fast dialogue. But after 6 months of listening practice, I could watch normal speed movies and understand 90%. I could laugh at jokes. I could follow plot twists. I could enjoy English media the way native speakers do. Fifth, and this is the most important one, I could finally think in English. I stopped translating in my head. When someone spoke to me in English, I understood in English. When I wanted to respond, I thought in English. This made conversations so much faster, so much more natural, so much more enjoyable. This is what listening gave me. Not just better English skills, but automatic, natural, fluent English. The kind of English where you don't have to think, You just communicate. And here's what surprised me the most. Once my listening was strong, everything else became easier. Reading became easier because I could hear the words in my head. Writing became easier because I knew how sentences should flow. Speaking became easier because I had thousands of patterns in my brain ready to use. Listening was the foundation. Everything else built on that foundation. This is why I say listening is the secret to fluency. Not because listening alone makes you fluent, but because listening makes everything else possible. So let me summarize everything. The secret to English fluency isn't speaking, it's listening. Most English learners focus on output, on speaking practice, on producing English. But you can't output what isn't in your brain. You need massive input first. Listening is how your brain learns language. Through listening, your brain recognizes patterns. Through patterns, your brain learns grammar, vocabulary, and pronunciation automatically. This is how children learn. This is how native speakers learned. And this is how you can learn too. There are 3 types of listening: passive listening for comfort and volume, active listening for growth and skill building, interactive listening for real-world fluency. Use all 3 types every day. There are 4 questions to guide your listening. Why am I listening? What am I learning? Am I in the way? What am I missing? These questions turn passive hearing into active learning. There are 7 mistakes to avoid. Listening without focus. Only one type of content. Trying to understand every word. Choosing content too difficult. Not listening to content you enjoy. Not tracking progress. And giving up too soon. Avoid these and you'll progress 3 times faster. And there's a 30-day challenge to start your transformation. 30 minutes of active listening daily. 1 hour of passive listening daily. 2 minutes of journaling daily. For 30 days. This builds the habit and shows you real results. If you do this consistently for 6 months, your English will transform. You won't just improve a little bit. You'll have a completely different level of English. You'll understand naturally. You'll speak automatically. You'll think in English. This is what listening gave me. This is what listening can give you. But you have to commit. You have to practice daily. You have to trust the process even when it feels slow. Remember, fluency isn't about speaking perfectly. Fluency is about understanding instantly, and understanding comes from listening. Massive amounts of listening. Daily listening. Active, focused, intentional listening. So, here's my final challenge to you. Starting today, commit to the 30-day listening challenge. 30 minutes of focused active listening. 1 hour of passive listening. 2 minutes of journaling. Every single day for 30 days. In 30 days, test yourself. Listen to content you couldn't understand today. See how much easier it is. I guarantee you'll be shocked by your improvement. And once you see that improvement, once you feel your brain changing, you'll understand. Listening truly is the secret to fluency. Thank you for watching this full video. I'm Young-hee. If this helped you, please share it with another English learner who's struggling. Because everyone deserves to know the truth. The secret to English fluency isn't speaking, it's listening. Start listening today. Keep listening tomorrow. And in 30 days, in 3 months, in 6 months, your English will be completely transformed. I believe in you. Now go listen.